targets in your area. Do you require tactical backup? Delta 2-9.
You are now listening to the You Run podcast, True Crime.
Delta with status. Please respond. Over. Key your mic if you're in trouble.
This is the only true crime podcast completely run and controlled by you, the listeners. You become part of my investigation team. You share your facts and your theories on the case. I'll even let you pick the cases that we investigate. Together, we can unpick and unravel some of the most heinous, unsolved crimes in the history of the world. This is your show, and I give you all the control. You can even get your voice heard. All you need to do is head over to yourunpodcast.com and record us a voicemail. This is your show. This is your true crime.
Units be advised. Now switching to T-Mobile off.
Hello, my name is Scott, and welcome to the first ever You Run podcast, True Crime. If you're familiar with our other show, which is the You Run podcast Horror Movie Review, you've got a good idea of how the You Run podcast works. If you've never listened to that before and you've just come for the true crime, let me explain it to you. So the You Run podcast is a true crime podcast that is completely run and controlled by you. You choose the case that I investigate. Each episode, there'll be a monthly episode. I'm joined by a guest co-host who will take us through the investigation together and see if we can answer some predetermined questions that we want to get solved. You can get involved in the case and the episode in so many different ways. So you can go to our Instagram or our Twitter. We're at You Run Podcast on both. You can give your facts on the case. You can give your theories. There's so many ways you can get involved. And if you do that, you'll get a shout out on the air. You can also call in. If you go to our website, yourunpodcast.com, you can record us a voicemail and you can say pretty much whatever you want about true crime or request a case for us to look at. This is your show to run. It's not like other true crime podcasts. And with that in mind, there's something else that's really not like other true crime podcasts. I don't like true crime. I think we'll hit that straight out of the bat. I don't watch true crime. I don't read up about true crime. I don't watch documentaries. I don't read books on serial killers. And the reason for that is it scares the shit out of me because it's real. These are real people who could actually come and fuck me up in some cases. And I'm not down for that. So you're all probably sat there now going, then why are you doing a true crime podcast? The reason is I've been asked by so many listeners to Horror Movie Review to do a true crime podcast because they want something different. And you're going to get something different because I know nothing. You're going to get a completely unbiased, untainted view on every case. I actually have to go and work and investigate. And that makes this show unique because I don't come in with preconceived ideas that I saw a documentary on it or I read a book on it. I come in completely blind and I only know what I find out. As I mentioned earlier, I'm not doing this alone. And I've probably bored you to tears already by just telling you how it works. So I've got my guest co-host with me. My guest co-host is a really good friend, a horror podcaster, a true crime fanatic who knows more about true crime than me, which is going to be really useful on this episode. You'll work that out as we go along. My co-host is Heather Silmon from Wednesday Wine and Horror. Welcome to True Crime.
Thank you. I'm super excited, but I do have to say, Jack the Ripper, if you guys could see my face right now, like this one is tough. This is a tough one, even for the huge true crime fans. He is an enigma, or she, or he, we don't know, or they, or right? Yeah. Or them. So we don't know. But yeah, no, I'm excited to be able to do true crime. I love it. Besides horror, it's one of my favorite, like, oh my God, I've seen all the fucking true crime documentaries, like everything. So I like it. It doesn't scare me. I watch it and go to bed.
Yeah, I will do that with the most gory, horrific horror movie and sleep like a baby. With true crime, there's a serial killer, especially if it's one that's not been caught. I'm going, no, I don't. I'm not as bothered by this one because this happened so long ago. I think I'm safe. Jack the Ripper.
I think you're probably okay, Abby, like unless his ghostesses comes back. Like, you better hide, but you're fine. You're fine.
As I said, each episode we're going to try and answer some predetermined questions which were agreed on Instagram and Twitter. These are suggestions that come in that I've then taken. So for Jack the Ripper, we're going to try and find out who he, she, or they were, what was the motive, and why did the killing suddenly stop? And yeah, we're going to do that today. We're going to do what hasn't happened in over 100 years, what no other true crime podcast or investigator or ripperist has managed to work out. We're going to solve it today. So your case today is case 1.0, Jack the Ripper. Case number 1.0, Jack the Ripper, English serial killer, active between August and November 1888. 5 confirmed murders, all prostitutes in or near the Whitechapel district of London's East End. Identity still unknown. Case files currently sealed at Scotland Yard. To understand Jack the Ripper, I think we need to first look at the area that Jack the Ripper worked in. So the murders took place in Whitechapel, starting in 1888. Whitechapel is, I should probably say, it's a crime-ridden, sordid part of the town, but it's a shit.
It sounded awful.
It's really, really bad. I mean, it's so bad. In fact, there is around about 78,000 residents in Whitechapel. And there is a 50-50 chance of living past the age of 5 in that area in 1880.
What the fuck? Oh God. That's fucking awful. Like, fuck that shit. I'm not going there. I don't no, thank you.
To compound that further, it is rife with prostitution. So there are around about 1,200 active prostitutes working the streets and working in 62 brothels. That's not including ones that worked on the outskirts on the City of London. So at any given time, you could have 1,500 prostitutes work in that area.
Crazy.
And these would be Jack's victims. Because they were pickings. They were thought of effectively as scum. No one gave them a second thought.
No, and there were so many of them. So how would, if a few of them go missing, wouldn't be so apparent, because you said there was up to 1,500. So easy victims to me. Just like you can get away with it.
And even worse, in Whitechapel, the police had a ratio of 1 to 300 people.
Yeah.
So the police were massively undermanned anyway. And in Whitechapel, there was areas that were so bad, the police would not patrol certain areas at night.
I don't fucking blame them. Well, I mean, they may have gotten them a little pickle if they did, pickle. We got to keep it funny. We got to make it funny too.
And I'm sure there was a lot of corruption in those police at Whitechapel. A huge amount.
I believe it. I think so. I didn't even really dig into that aspect of it, but come on.
Yeah.
Like, there had to be.
Yeah, I mean, there was no radios. There was no, if they needed assistance, they called by whistle. They had no bicycles. They literally, it was just, you had a policeman on the beat was just a man walking around with a truncheon.
Yeah.
That was it. The first murder occurred on the 31st of August, 1888. At 3:40 a.m. on Bucks Road, Mary Ann's Nichols' body was discovered by 2 men on their way to work. To emphasize how bad this area was, when they found Mary Ann Nichols, she was still alive. They didn't want to be late for work, so they agreed that on their way to work, they would flag down the closest police officer to tell them where they'd found the body.
They just, I mean, like you said, like they didn't actually care, because I think personally it was because she was a prostitute.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, she's probably going to die. We're not going to worry about it. Hey, other copper, come over here and help her.
And the only thing they did do is which today is just insane, they tampered with the crime scene and they moved her slightly and pulled her dress down to give her a bit of dignity, which that would not happen today.
No, that's like the first rule of like police club. That's what we're going to say instead of fight club. Like, you don't touch the shit. Like, leave it alone. Again, even in 1888, I feel like they should have known better. At least they should have known that. Yeah,
the thing is, though, this predates forensic science. So
yes,
all the police would do when they got there would go, "Oh, there's a dead body." Let's pick it up. Let's pick it up and take it to the morgue.
God,
There's no procedures to follow.
that is true.
She was pronounced dead at 3:55 by Dr. Reese Ralph Llewellyn, who then went on to do the autopsy and the investigation, or the investigation of the body. I'm not going to go into the ins and outs for every single murder, but I am going to just read his notes from this first murder to give you an idea of, one, how brutal it was, but two, what was going through their mind when they went, that's fine, we'll just find a police officer. So 5 teeth were missing. There was a slight laceration of the tongue. There was a bruise running along the lower part of the jaw on the right-hand side of the face that might have been caused from a blow or from a fist or pressure from a thumb. There was a circular bruise on the left-hand side of the face, which also might have been inflicted by pressure of the fingers. On the left-hand side of the neck, about 1 inch below the jaw, there was an incision about 4 inches in length and ran from a point immediately below the ear on the other side. But an inch below that was another cut, and there was another incision. Below the right jaw, the incision completely severed all the tissues down to the vertebrae of the bone. The large vessels of the neck on both sides were severed. The incision was about 8 inches in length, and cuts must have been caused by a large blade, but it was only moderately sharp and used with great violence.
That's extremely brutal for me to think how, because like when you listen to true crime stuff now and other serial killers that have been in the 20th century, and currently, you hear about them being pretty brutal like that, but this is insane to me. This is like over 130 something years ago, and this was the brutality of something that you would hear about currently.
And that was just the face and the neck. So on the abdomen, there was another cut, which was around 5 inches long, which was done in a jagged manner. The rest of her body was completely left alone, just the cuts to the face and neck, and then across the abdomen, which is horrific.
Yes, it is.
But the police didn't do a great deal about this. It was a prostitute that had been killed. It could have been a gang. It could have been a pimp. It could have been anything. So the police kind of just went, oh well, move on. 8 days later, we got our second victim, which was Annie Chapman. She was discovered on Hanbury Street at 6 a.m. With very similar injuries to Mary Ann Nichols. This time, an attempt had been made to remove the head completely.
Oh my God. I did read, and if you don't mind me to add to that, is that what I read was that for Annie Chapman, that, he tried to remove part of her uterus. Yeah. So it was like, he's basically, I wouldn't say disemboweling these people, but he is like, is he keeping it for a trophy? Is he keeping body parts? Because wouldn't you think you would need to know anatomy a little well in order to get the uterus out?
That was one of the theories that the police went with, is that this is someone who is either medically trained or a butcher. And Whitechapel's got there's a huge amount of immigration in Whitechapel. There's a lot of Polish, there's a lot of Jewish, there's a lot of people, and because of the time period, those people were not liked. That those races were not liked, and that's where the press and the public focused their rage. This could never have been a Londoner. Yeah,
true. Yeah,
which is, I suppose, a sign of the times, but it's horrific.
But also that's just a little stereotypical, even so, to say now, because it could have been someone from London. I mean, like a Londoner. I feel like I get that. Like, I get that they would be easier to blame it on someone who was Polish or Jewish, but we don't know. And so, like, you need to look at everybody.
And the crazy thing is, there was now a reasonable gap. There was almost a month break before Jack the Ripper struck again. When he struck again, he committed 2 murders, one in Whitechapel and one just outside in the city of London. So he killed Elizabeth Stride and Catherine Eddowes. Again, horrifically brutal murders. And again, the police are at a loss. And I put that down to a couple of reasons. One, because they weren't that bothered. Because these are prostitutes. Though there was a big campaign about them telling privileged women that Whitechapel was safe, because you're not his target audience, was kind of what they went with.
That's just, I don't know. It's hard to say. You don't really want to be super insulting because, again, this was over 130 years ago. So you have to think about the mindset of these detectives. But also it's like, oh, well, if you're fancy and rich, like Jack the Ripper won't kill you. But we don't know that. And again, when we talk about Catherine Eddowes, you know, her kidney and heart were removed. So again, we have this little, to me, it's kind of like you're keeping body parts. You know how some serial killers, they do keep things as a token of like, hey, I have this, I have your head or a bone or whatever. But yeah, apparently they're keeping body parts from these women.
That's my take on it as well. Say, having not known anything about Jack the Ripper, when I'm reading through it, that doesn't make any sense unless he's doing something with it. Is he keeping it? Is he eating it? Is it how far is he going with it? Is he taking it home and frying it up? Have we got a Hannibal Lecter type moment going on? Because we know literally nothing about him.
I mean, he could have been, but I honestly wouldn't go as far as like the cannibalism part of it. Maybe I feel like a part of me, because I'm so like conspiracy theorist, like when it comes to this stuff, is that maybe that was a way to like throw the police off. It's like, oh, well, I'll make it look like I know how to do stuff like a surgical person. And then really like, or he could be a butcher, etc. And then you have all these other suspects because you don't know, is it a butcher? Could it be a surgeon? Could it be someone that was in school, like to learn? Nobody fucking knows.
Even down to the point that I think one of the more modern theories is a member of the royal family.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Which
I read that too. I was like, what the fuck? What? Leave the queen out of this. Like, come on now. But it could be. Yeah. But it could be.
Yeah, it could be. I don't think it is, but we'll get to what you.
Yeah, I don't either. I'm just saying it's just one of those things they threw in to let's add something to it.
The 9th of November is what's believed to be Jack's final kill in the main 5. There are rumors that he's killed more prior and afterwards, and there's also a theory that he left the UK and continued murdering in Chicago, but we'll get to that later. But his final victim was Mary Kelly. This was the most brutal of all of his murders by a very, very long way. And that's because this was the only murder that happened indoors. It wasn't done out on the streets. The whole surface of the abdomen and thighs were removed. The abdominal cavity was completely empty. The breasts were cut off, arms mutilated by several jagged wounds, and the face hacked beyond recognition of all the features. The tissue in the neck was severed all the way round and down to the bone.
See, so again, with that's extremely graphic. That's a very macabre killing. And starting from the first victim down to our supposed 5th victim, we don't have a lot of, like, we don't understand what's like, well, you did this to her, not so graphic. Still murdered her. But now the last one is like, this is not a normal killing. No. This person has to have knowledge somewhat of human anatomy. They have to know, because it says that I read that he skinned her.
Yeah.
So it's like, how the fuck do you know how to do that? You just don't go off and kill someone and like take all their body parts out.
There's also got to be a huge amount of rage as well to hack someone's face beyond recognition. I know there was a lot of opium dens in, so there's also a lot of theories that this was someone who was high. Yeah, when they done it, which would explain their lack of restraint.
Very much, and the gruesomeness of it. That could be for someone that was intoxicated like that. That would make sense, but I don't know. It's hard. You people.
The crazy thing is, if the murders had happened and it was just the murders, I think the police would have had a much better chance of pulling it apart and investigating it. But they were absolutely ruined by the press. The press made this impossible to investigate. So the press were publishing their own suspects.
Mm-hmm.
They were sending letters to the police to get the police to read them. There was over 300 letters received by the police.
Mm-hmm.
And in this area, they have 300 police officers.
It feels like the media was antagonizing them almost.
Yeah.
Because you know what I mean? Just to like media, even back in 1888, is the same as it is now. It's like it's just about the story.
Yeah.
It's about the fucking story.
And even worse so then, they would feed a letter to
Mm-hmm.
the police and they would do things like they would exchange a letter. So they would
Mm-hmm.
feed, we've got this evidence for you. And the police would then in turn leak a letter to the press and they would print them. So you had the press basically playing out this story that they would pick a couple of letters that they had.
Yeah.
And basically show that Jack the Ripper was taunting them. But 90% of these letters were written by the press.
Yeah. So it's like, so they're fucking liars. Let's just say that. First of all, because they fabricated the story to help them out. And then also, I think that just causes chaos.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody's fucking freaking out because it's like, what the hell?
And so much so that there was a vigilante committee that was set up. It was a group of people who believed the police weren't acting fast enough.
Mhm.
So they set up their own committee to investigate, and they fed the police false leads and tried to use the police to get people that they wanted off the street. They're rumored to have written the famous From Hell letter.
Ah, okay.
Which we got a Johnny Depp movie of the same name.
Yes, we did. Yeah.
But yeah, that letter has been deemed to be a fake and apparently written by that vigilante group. Piece of evidence. From Hell letter. Sir, I send you half the kidney I took from the woman, preserved it for you. T'other piece I fried and ate. It was very nice. I may send you the bloody knife that took it out if you wait a while longer. Signed, Catch Me When You Can, Miss Galusk, From Hell.
I mean, most likely, because it just sounds like it was a big ruse then. And like you mentioned, them trying to get people off of the street that they didn't like, maybe to make the city, like maybe to make it safer. But then they're taking the wrong people out, probably, because you don't know if any of these people committed any murders. Maybe they were just like drunks or soliciting with the prostitutes. I don't know.
I think the thing I found the strangest when I read through a lot of the police interviews with people at the time, the thing I found really strange was the times that people were up and moving around. So like the guys who found the first victim on their way to work, that happened at like 4 o'clock in the morning. They were walking to work.
Yeah,
you had lots of people. So lots of people were about in Whitechapel in London at 3-4 o'clock in the morning. It was that
seems odd.
It seems odd to me, but I don't know if that's just how it was because it was so rife with prostitution and gambling and drinking.
True.
And opium dens. Was that just the area that everyone went to party?
I mean, most likely. I mean, I would say so, considering that it was how would we say, like, laid back in our today's terms. But yeah, it's crazy to think that somebody's just walking around at 4 a.m. like found a dead body.
I think the worst bit of that is they didn't even find a dead body. She was alive when they found her.
Yeah, to me, that's the most fucked up part of that. I guess I missed that or didn't read that or find it, but that's pretty fucked up because she could have survived, maybe. And so would that have taken our Jack the Ripper case a different direction? Yes, because she could have possibly identified. Maybe. This is just me with my crazy brain thinking.
I think the thing that I find most interesting about this is there is not a single eyewitness account of anyone seeing Jack.
Nope.
Not
he was
one.
Just like disappeared. It's like he just disappeared into the night, killed these women, and there you go. He's done.
So if you look at, like, I've just said that area is a busy, bustling place at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. He's able to come in, commit murder, and disappear without anyone seeing him. So all of the descriptions we've got of Jack with the top hat and the cape and holding the black bag is all speculation of that's how people and the press perceived he would dress, because no one ever saw him.
But didn't a lot of the men dress like that?
Yeah.
back in that time, right? They had top hats or they wore the long trench coats or, to me, I just feel like that was the style. So then you might as well make everybody a suspect, every man that wore that outfit a suspect.
Yeah, and the carrying of the black bag
Hmm.
was printed in the press that Jack the Ripper carried his knives in a black bag. That actually caused attacks on people in Whitechapel, where the vigilante group and residents would see someone late at night with a black bag and attack them, thinking it was Jack the Ripper.
It's just such a hot mess. Like, I mean, I again, this is a case. This is a case that's extremely hard because you can go with a million different theories on it, but it just all sounds extremely fucking messy. Even back then, you know what I mean? It's like nobody knew anything.
Yeah, and let's be honest, in the 1800s, they would close a case with very little evidence. They would be able to fit someone
Exactly.
up and they go, right, you've done it, case closed, forget about it, it's out of the press.
How many people were put to death
Yeah.
that actually didn't do anything?
But they didn't manage to do that with this. They could not make this case go away. Some of our listeners to Horror Movie Review have helped with this first episode.
Okay.
And they've come up with some suspects who they think it could be. Listeners' suspects for Jack the Ripper. So we've got the OG Shape, who's come up with, this was just a serial killer, like a serial killer today who just took advantage of the time. It was someone who had the urge to kill.
Yeah.
Satisfied that urge because they knew they could get away with it. And it was nobody of note. It was just a serial killer.
Yeah. I mean, and I am not going to say that I disagree with OG Shape on that one. I actually know who that is. That's my pal. So, I mean, I will agree with that. I will agree.
Yeah. And then getting into another one, which is Mark from MW
Okay.
Horror, who's also my co-host for Horror Movie Review in season 5. He believes it was a high-up police officer.
Well, Mark's pretty smart. So I'm just going to say that I still, again, am not going to disagree with him on his theory because that actually makes a lot of sense if you think about it.
Yeah, that was my initial theory. That was when I was looking up on this, my initial take was this was someone in the police or a group of people in the police who were trying to clean up the area to allow it to be developed and bring money in. And I think there was a lot of backhanders going on at the time. But
yes.
I swayed away from that, and I'll explain why a bit.
Yeah.
The last listener suspect I love, and it comes from Skellington fan. No idea at all. That's why he is my favorite of all the serial killers.
She likes to be. This is she, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I thought. I think we messaged each other not too long ago because I was like, oh my God, I didn't realize I wasn't following you. I feel fucking awful. But no, so that makes a lot of sense too. But it would drive me crazy. I have to tell her this. It would drive me crazy because you don't know. And I hate not knowing. But it is very mysterious in that way. So if that's what you like, there you go.
Motive. What do you think is a motive for this? Because the most common ones are, it was a man who disliked prostitutes, or it was a man who caught syphilis or caught some sort of STD from prostitutes and took it out on them. But if that was the case, why those 5? There was so many prostitutes there. Why only those 5, and why that big gap? What other motives are there? There's got to be more.
There are more motives. I don't know when we're going to talk about mine. Okay, so my motive and my theory kind of go together. Like it's kind of the, how I feel about it.
don't do yours yet. We're saving ours to the end.
Yay.
So some of the other motives are that it could be effectively a surgeon or a butcher who was effectively using this as practice.
That's true. It's fucked up.
It's very fucked up.
Yes, but that makes sense because of the injuries of the 5 victims.
Yeah. The other motive, which again I can buy into this, is this was gang related or pimp related. So these girls worked for rival pimps, and it was a case of they were taking out each other, taking out the competition effectively.
So so with the gang theory on that, that would maybe make more sense as to why it was those specific 5 victims.
Yeah.
Would you think so? Because it's like, oh, well, so and so knew this person, and there was like a little clique, so to speak. So for me, that one would make the most sense as far as the way, I mean, with the 5 victims.
Yeah, it
being
also
so
makes,
specific.
yeah, it also makes sense to me why the killing, the brutality escalated. If it was a retaliation game, well, you've done this to my girl, I'm going to do this to yours, and so on.
Yes.
What it doesn't explain is why it stopped. Just 5 kills, and then it was gone. It stopped.
It was done.
It was out of the press. It was completely finished.
Hmm.
So this opens up even more questions for me that I don't like questions. I like answers.
Right? I know, I'm the same thing. I like to ask questions, but like, I just want the answer.
So did he get caught, or did he get killed, or did he leave for Chicago, as a huge amount of people believe that he is actually H.H. Holmes, who was hung in Chicago in 1896 for 27 murders.
Yeah, I don't believe that. I mean, that's not my theory. Because I've actually read and watched a lot of stuff on H.H. Holmes, so I don't really buy into that one.
And from what I've read, I didn't go too much into that because we're doing Jack the Ripper, but from what I read, from what I can see, for me, the dates don't marry up enough to make that.
No, it wasn't.
They're too far out.
Yeah.
The other theory is, did he just stop? Was this something like a ritualistic thing, or something that he was trying to achieve a goal, and with his final victim, he achieved what he wanted?
I don't know if I can buy into that one, mainly because, like, if he was that brutal and he was not being caught, why not just go ahead and kill more? Like, why not just go ahead and, what I'm saying? Because it's like, how 5 are not going to satisfy a serial killer, right? There would be no actual number. It would be until you got caught, which is all how it happens in modern day serial killers. They keep killing until they get caught. That's
one thing I struggle to get around with this is why it just ended. Elise, horror review girl, made a very good point. Someone like this, a person who's capable of this, does not just stop.
Yeah, that and I agree with Elise. Elise knows I love her too. I agree with that though. Why would you? They can't just stop. Like, I'm over here, like, can't even talk, but they can't just stop. It just doesn't make any, theoretically, it makes no sense. It's like, you kill 5, oh, you're done.
I can't get around that. And which leads me to think either they were caught or they were killed. And if they were caught, surely you'd like to know that would have come out in the press that they were caught.
I would think so, but we never get that. You know, this whole thing is like, no one knows who Jack the Ripper was. So I want to say, I don't think he got caught.
No, I mean, the crazy thing is he could have been caught for something completely unrelated.
He could have, yeah. And they didn't have the evidence and the technology to be able to say, oh, by the way, we're going to take your fingerprint because we think that you did this. But guess what? You guys, fingerprinting didn't even come out until 1901. So at the time of these murders, you kill everybody. You kill everybody you want. Because, I mean, you're basically scot-free, right?
Yeah.
you can't get caught.
Yeah, I mean, 1888, there's no CCTV, there's no forensic science. There
Nothing.
Are policemen that won't go into certain areas at certain times of night because they deem it too dangerous.
Yeah.
There are very, very few eyewitnesses, and the ones that are there are prostitutes or drug addicts, and the chances of them being believed by the police, even if they saw you, is slim.
Yeah.
If an area like this existed today, it would be rife with serial killers. I
think so. But they'd all be caught. They'd all be caught now, right? But yeah, like the crime would still be really bad, but you wouldn't get away with shit.
No.
Because you can't get away with shit these days. I mean, you can't murder someone, you guys. You can't do it, okay? You're not Jack the Ripper. You can't do it this day because they will find you.
Yes.
You will get caught.
Yeah, don't go killing.
No.
on that, I found a really, really interesting fact. When you leave your home, or when most people, what should we call it, in the developed world, leave your home, so the US, the UK, Europe, most places, you are on some form of CCTV 97% of the time you are outside of your home.
I believe that shit. I believe that. Y'all ain't a conspiracy theorist over here, but like seriously, you can't go anywhere because if you think about it, that's true. Because they, people are like, "Oh my god, your phone's listening to you." Like I bet it fucking is.
Yeah,
I bet it is.
Yeah, and I don't know if anyone knows this, but like on certain apps, your phone will ask to be able to use your mic. And then you will go on to social media, be it Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, and you will get targeted ads for things you have been discussing.
Yes, I know it happens, and I almost burnt my phone. I was like, "What the fuck is happening?" Or whenever an app says, "Would you like to share your location?" and it'll give you the option to share your location, share it once, share it only while using the app. I'm like, "No, bitch, don't share," because I think it's going to help me, right? But look, let's be honest, okay? We live in 2022. Everybody knows what you're doing. They know where your ass is at.
Yeah.
Like if they want to find you, turning off locations is not going to save you.
No, it's not. Let's get into our theory. So
okay.
Hit me with yours because I want to know who you think.
Okay. So I'm going to go with my theory. And this is something that I found while researching. Now, there are tons of theories. So everybody can, you agree, disagree. But there was a boyfriend of one of the victims, Joseph Barnett, excuse me. So he was the victim of Mary Jane Kelly. That was her full name, Mary Jane Kelly. So obviously he's not very happy that, like his girlfriend is a prostitute. He doesn't like this. He doesn't want her to sell her body. And I believe that he tried to warn her or tried to tell her hey, if you prostitute, bad things can happen, right? There's been murders.
Yeah.
Well, I think that she didn't, honestly, I feel like it's well, who knows why she prostituted? Did she need the money? Whatever at that time. And so I think that what happened is that he warned her. She didn't listen. And for me, I think he killed her. I think that he possibly killed these other women to kind of scare his girlfriend out of being a prostitute, but maybe it was a heat of passion type killing. It was almost like, I'm so angry that you didn't listen to me, and
I'm going to kill someone now to scare you.
But then I'm going to kill you because he was so immensely. I mean, because you can't really someone that wants to kill somebody. Do they need a motive? Yes, we think they need a motive, but do they have to have a motive? Absolutely not. Some people are utterly insane and they will do it. And so that could be why they were not able to catch on to who it was, because he was probably more of a nobody. I wouldn't think that he was someone I get all the being disemboweled and all these butcher surgeon techniques. But again, I didn't find a lot of information on him. So who's to say that he just, I don't know, he might have known how to do that. But that's just me. I think it was more of not a heat of passion, but I just think that he could have had something to do with it. It made sense to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, when I looked through this, my theories changed multiple times. And I stumbled across all the theories of people who the general consensus of who people think it is.
Yeah.
I sat with the police being heavily involved for pretty much the whole month I've looked into this case.
Yeah.
And then about 4 days ago, I stumbled across something that made more sense to me. It gave me motive, an opportunity, and a person, and an explanation to why the killing stopped. So I don't think Jack was Jack at all. I think Jack was Jill the Ripper.
You have to please explain.
So I believe Jack the Ripper was Mary Piercy, who was executed in 1890 for killing her lover's partner. Now, around the same time as Jack the Ripper, 1888, she lived in that area with her boyfriend, sorry, it was her husband, John
Her
Charles
husband.
Piercy. He was having several affairs with ladies of the night, and I believe she started killing the women that he was visiting Whitechapel to sleep with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
After the last kill, or around the time of Jack the Ripper's last kill, they split up, and he went off with another lady who he'd got pregnant, and she had the baby.
Okay.
Now, Piercy committed almost an identical murder to the Jack the Ripper murders and got caught red-handed doing it. She lured the lover to a coffee shop area, tea shop area, where she slit her throat, smothered her baby, threw them into the street, and then gutted the woman. And she was arrested and hung for this. And this was around the time that the killings would have stopped, because her focus was now not on the prostitutes, it was on the husband's lover.
Yes.
Even more convincing is she placed an advert in a Spanish newspaper that was printed in London that read, MECP, last wish of MEW, have not betrayed. Now, no one has ever decoded this, ever. I think MECP could stand for Mary Jane Kelly, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, and Polly Nichols.
I'm feeling that theory.
When she was taken to execution, she gave one last statement. Well, her last words were, "My sentence is just one, but for a good deal of evidence against me was false," alluding to the fact that she had done this before.
Yeah. I mean, that actually is okay, you guys. Scott's obviously has a better brain. Your brain works terrific. You might actually be a little bit of a true crime detective. Yeah, that actually makes more sense. I think I'm just going more with the like, ooh, nobody would have guessed that, right? But no, that makes sense too, because if the killing stopped at that particular time, she was hung, she was, put to death. And then it's kind of like, well, then that's why no one knows anything else, right? Because they did catch her red-handed.
They did catch her. So
that's crazy.
There was a detective early in the Jack the Ripper case who openly said that this could potentially be a woman.
But that would have been, to me, so unheard of for that time. Insane.
He was ridiculed, and he was basically taken from what he was doing and put to the equivalent of go be a traffic cop.
Okay, he looked at Rent-A-Cop for 1888. I don't know.
Yeah, so he basically went, "This could be a woman," and everyone went, "Get out." There's no way this could be a woman.
But this, I think, it could be, and that could be why this case is so ridiculously hard to understand.
I think that we're both on the right track. These murders are too brutal to not be a crime of passion. I don't believe these are. I don't believe that these are a serial killer who's killing for pleasure because of the level of brutality.
Yes.
I think with that level of brutality, there's got to be emotion in with that. There's got to be a reason for being that violent.
Well, there is, and there typically is a lot with serial killers. And I know we're talking about Jack the Ripper, but just to say, you have Dahmer or Bundy. It all stems back from things that happen to them.
Yeah.
And they have a rage. And there's a reason why when they are killing their victims, there is a reason why they do it with such brutality. There is something in them that either gives them sexual satisfaction or makes them feel better, because it's like, I can take my anger out in this situation. So yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, Jack the Ripper or Jill the Ripper or whoever it may have been is incredibly unique in serial killers, because most serial killers kill in their home or in a designated area where they will commit their kills. A lot of them will go and put bodies elsewhere and keep body parts, all that kind of stuff. But the vast majority of serial killers kill indoors.
Yeah.
Jack the Ripper killed in broad daylight. Well, not in broad daylight. He killed at nighttime, but he killed outside
Oh,
in a busy area.
outside. Yeah, minus the one victim that was in her bed. Is
Yeah.
that correct? Yeah. So,
And these are not quick kills. This is not a case of because killings happen all the time in cities all over the world.
yes.
It's just a fact of life. But this isn't a case of he was stabbing someone and walking away. He took time. It takes time to cut through a neck down to the bone. It takes time to successfully remove a uterus.
Yeah. I mean,
it's not a quick process.
No, I mean, disemboweling someone, taking any of their organs out, with your theory of it being Jill, right? Jill the Ripper. So how, like, her disemboweling and everything, I guess that's my one thing where I might kind of not really fight with you over it, but I'm kind of like, well, how is it because she's a woman? Would she know where the uterus is at? Or is there something else that, like, we don't know about her? Was she a midwife, or was she some sort of, like, something?
No, see, I think she had an accomplice, which is why I think that
okay,
the letter she put into the paper with the lines "have not betrayed," I think she's put a classified ad in to say that to whoever is the other assistant that I have not betrayed you. I've not ratted you out to the police. So that I kind of think, I don't think she done it alone. I don't know who else she done it with, but I think she had an accomplice.
Maybe, well, probably, I guess if you go with that theory, because for me, I'd be like, well, how did you get your skill in taking body parts out? Like, you had to have somebody that would have known the anatomy. Again, I think these are just facts. Yeah. I feel like we don't know who did it. We're basing it off of what we just feel. But again, regardless of who did it, this person's woman, man, whoever did it, they had to know something about body. Because you know what? I'm going to be honest with you. Like, I'm a woman and I'm pregnant. I didn't even know where the fuck my uterus was at. I was like, oh, that's where it's at. Just saying, like, I mean, you have to know where stuff's at, right?
Yeah, and I wouldn't have the first clue of where anything was in a person.
Exactly.
I know where it all is on the surface. I know where all my parts are, but I don't know where that all sits. There are crazy facts for the time, though. So,
okay.
One of the reasons prostitution was so rife in the area, there was a law passed just before 1888 that you could not arrest a prostitute unless there was an official complaint made in writing to the police.
Oh, well, you know why? Okay, so the reason why it's fucked up, I can't even talk. I'm over here like, blah, 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 blah. Anyways, it's the baby's fault. Anyways, so, I mean, that makes sense because it's like, well, these people want to get their rocks off. Like, I'm sorry, it doesn't matter if it was 1888. Like, don't mess with their prostitutes, okay? If they're not doing anything wrong, leave them alone.
Yeah, and not only that, it's if let's say a prostitute had upset me, I've now taken the time and I've written a complaint, because you have to handwrite it in 1888. You can't even use a typewriter.
Scott, I'm gonna go ahead and let you know right now that if I had to write it, y'all might as well just go ahead and throw me in the jail. I don't care. I ain't doing nothing.
So
I
I've handwritten my complaint. I've now taken. I've gone and found a police officer and I've handed him my written complaint. One of two things is going to happen. Either the policeman's going to go away.
Yeah.
Or he's going to go, okay, what's her name? Where is she? And there's 1,200 prostitutes in Whitechapel. Never going to.
Exactly. Like, how are you going to narrow it down?
There is definitely something special about Jack the Ripper above every other case in history. So when I first started investigating this case, you can request case files for cold cases and closed cases. You need to pay for them, but I thought, Jack the Ripper, it's over 100 years old. I will be able to get hold of some case files and some copies of letters and other things like that. This file is still to this day sealed. It is a sealed police case. In 2019, it was taken to the High Court to try and get this unsealed.
Okay.
Scotland Yard heavily fought the case being unsealed and won, and it is now still sealed. And no time in the immediate future is this going to become public information.
See, I don't like that because I do feel like it should be public information.
Yeah.
What are they going to do? They're not going to go back and go find anybody from that time. Like nobody's going to get mad. But we as people, like you think about historians and things like that, they kind of need, like, we'd like to know.
Yeah, which makes me wonder, is there a lot more to this case than anyone knows?
I think so.
If after 100 years, they still don't want it released,
Mm-hmm.
what exists in those police files that we don't know?
Probably a whole lot more evidence than what we have been given or speculated on.
Yeah.
I'm 100% going to believe that there's something in there, and okay, you don't hide something for no reason. So you're not going to tell me that, oh, we can't unseal this, but why?
It does play into the hands of the people who believe it was a member of the royal family, or people who believe that it was a high-level police officer, because those would be good reasons that you don't want this case unsealed.
Like, especially with a royal family, then I mean, yeah, obviously, but you know what? Everybody has secrets. I get that, but again, there has to be something very specific that they don't want anybody to know.
The wildest theory I read, which I quite like, and this is wild. So the wildest theory I read is that Jack the Ripper was caught. Jack the Ripper was brought into effectively the police to act as a police vigilante, which is why he was never caught. He was caught, and then he was brought in to deal with certain elements within the world that the police couldn't deal with. So there's a theory that basically Jack the Ripper become a killer spy, become an assassin for the government.
I don't really. I mean, that's a fun theory. Like, it is fun. I think that we really can't diss any theories at this point because we don't know, and it's really just more about like how you feel and what information you've gathered. Again, Jack the Ripper is this was a tough one because it's so complex and there's so much information out there that you just don't know. You just don't know.
Yeah, and I think the three questions we set out to answer: who was Jack the Ripper, what was his motive, and what happened to him. We've drawn a bust on every single one. I can't answer any of them, and not only me and this podcast, but no one can. No one can tell me definitively who this was, why they done it, or what happened to them. And with that, as far as I'm concerned, case 1.0, Jack the Ripper, is closed for the You Run podcast.
Closed. It's unsolved. It's unsolved for sure.
It's closed as unsolved. And the reason I've done my cases as 1.0, because if new evidence was to arise on this case or any other case that we do on the show, we can return to it, and we will have 1.1. We will come back to Jack the Ripper if all of a sudden there is new evidence and there is a clear-cut suspect, or they release all of the files. If the files become public knowledge, I will return to Jack the Ripper and I will go through them again.
I will definitely have to be all about that because I need to know. I'm going to be like, oh my God, what's in the paperwork? Open it. I need to read it.
Yeah.
I don't like secrets.
No, I definitely don't like secrets, but this one is going to remain unsolved. I hope you've all liked our first stab at true crime. It's very new to me. As you can tell, I will build this as we go. Anyone who's listened to Horror Movie Review, who listened right at the very beginning through to now, the show is wildly different and improved greatly. And true crime will be exactly the same. There are so many ways to get involved, and I really, really need you, if you're listening now, to become part of the show. So you can go to our website, yourunpodcast.com, where you can record us a voicemail. Send in more theories for Jack the Ripper. Request a case. I will play those on the air. for you to listen to. So you can hear your voice on the show. You can get involved on our social media. So when this airs, I'm going to be putting up a new batch of cases for you to pick between, for us to be for the next case. You can share your theories, your facts. You can do pretty much whatever you want. This is the You Run podcast because you run it. As I said for call-ins, we've actually got one. So this is someone who listens to true crime, listens to horror movie review. They sent in a message when they found out I was doing true crime. And I'm going to play you that message now because this is a request for a case. And I want to get your take on it, Heather, and see if this is a case that we should potentially put into the mix.
Okay.
Hello. I see you're doing a true crime portion every month on your podcast. I'd like to suggest a cold case. You may have heard of it. A wealthy couple were murdered in cold blood in an alleyway after attending a swanky event, leaving their only child an orphan and the sole heir to their fortune. It forced them to become a vigilante because his parents are dead.
So
That's very intense. I'm actually scared a little bit.
So those of you who don't listen to Horror Movie Review, that is a regular listener to the show and a regular caller, and that is Imitation Dave.
Yes.
Dave wanted to bring a little bit of fun to the first episode of True Crime by requesting the murder of Batman's parents.
I knew it. I was like, he's so goofy.
Thank you so much, Dave, for ringing in. You are a legend and a star on every show you get involved with.
We love you, Dave.
I don't think we're doing Batman though.
I'm gonna go ahead and say this, that like, okay, Batman's fine. I don't know if you're a big Batman fan, of the films, but Michael Keaton is the only Batman for me, and y'all can fight me. Thank you. He's the OG. That's my favorite. So just saying.
Before we go, I want to give you a quick recommendation for a movie to go and watch if you like Jack the Ripper. And my recommendation for this is the only Jack the Ripper movie I've ever seen, which is From Hell with Johnny Depp. Mm-hmm. I think that is a very, very good horror movie. It's a very good depiction of Jack the Ripper and delivered in a very respectful and good way. So if you have watched a lot of true crime and you've not seen that movie, go and watch that movie because it's definitely worth a watch. Yes. I'm going to go and I'm going to catch you all on the next episode. I'm going to have a new co-host on the next episode who I will announce as we get closer. Thank you so much, Heather, for joining me for this first episode.
Well, I've had a great time. And you guys, look, I am pretty smart, but when you guys picked this one for our first case, you guys must think I'm like, I didn't go to Harvard. I'm not that smart. This one was tough, but it was interesting. And I think, Scott, I think that we both kind of almost had some of the similar ideas. Like I know our theories were different, but it was still a lot of fun because this is a case that you could just talk about forever.
Yeah, and everyone's already spoke about this case forever. I wanted to do, obviously, our take on it, but this is the first episode. I don't want to go in too deep and scare everyone off. These episodes they're not like a true crime podcast. I'm not going to just sit here and read you reams and reams and reams of information. That's not what this show is. So if you've got to this point in the show and gone, that was great, that was just enough information, it was good fun, it made me laugh, this is the show for you. Come back because that's what you're getting. If you've got to this bit and gone, there's nowhere near enough information, there's not this, there's not that, we're not the show for you. And I don't mind saying that. If this is not what you're looking for in true crime, that's fine. There are hundreds of thousands of true crime podcasts out there.
There's so many. There's so many. So I would suggest, if Scott doesn't mind, that if you have an idea, I'm sure he would be open to ideas. But yeah, like Scott said, this isn't going to be we read something from a book.
No.
And we're getting, because if that's the case, then you guys can just go read your own books, Google your own articles, and then you're there. I mean, I'm just saying, like, I've listened to plenty true crime podcasts, and no disrespect, but a lot of them are very mundane, and it's just that's how they are.
That's not what we offer here. We offer
No.
a bit of entertainment, a little bit more lighthearted, as well as lighthearted as you can get with serial killers.
Murder.
As lighthearted as murder can be. Thank you all for listening, and I'll catch you all on the next episode.
Delta 2-9er, be advised. Targets in your area. Do you require tactical backup?
Thank you for listening and participating in the investigation of this episode of True Crime.
Delta 2-9, please respond.
Be sure to leave us a review wherever you can. So that's Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
Key your mic if you're in trouble.
And for more information on how to get involved in the show, contact us through our social media at YouRunPodcast everywhere, or go to our website, yourunpodcast.com.